Hi, it's Alex, and today we speak about how easy it is to overlook just very simple threads. So this position looks quite typical: the knight on c3, the black knight on f6. It's equality, material equality in 5 pawns on the either side, and here it's black to move. Can you spot the right move? I suggest that we look from the black side. And black has played knight e4, threatening to come with the rook to d1 with mate. Well, it seems easy, but one move earlier, white could decide between knight e3 and knight c3. Knight e3, well, it looks like knight g4 is also strong. The knight is untouchable on g4, but in this case white has some intermediate moves. Like here, bishop c7, the bishop goes away from the attack, and now really a strong move, bishop a5. Well, you know, it's black king on f8, the f8 that is in danger, making the move like rook b2 impossible due to rook a8, king g7, and then bishop c3. Well, bishop d8 isn't working, since we have the same idea with rook d8 and the rook comes back. So, knight e3, it would be a strong move, but white in the game Rosen against Busan G, both grandmasters with L rating 2600 versus 2700, so white played knight c3, and after knight e4 finds himself in a difficult position. King f1, natural move to prevent the mate ideas. Well, everything looks fine, but now I suggest that you use the method of forced moves to find the right one. So, there are not so many forced moves in this position. You can capture, you can give check on d1, it's not working. You can play knight d2 check, well, it's possible, but what's next? You can also capture on c3, knight takes the knight, bishop takes, well, also nothing special. And is there any other capture? What do you think? Yes, exactly. You can play knight takes f2. After capturing the pawn, you see it's the problem that the white rook is on a7, meaning that black bishop can come with check if white captures the knight with his king. Probably you ask yourself what happens after bishop c5 immediately. Well, it's again black takes the rook and the pawn, but here it's not working very well, since black has two pieces under attack, the bishop on c5 and the knight on e4. It can't work this way. So knight f2, the strongest move, and probably the move that white overlooked earlier in the calculation. In his calculation. After rook e7, well, the only move that makes sense, since all other moves are just leaving white without material. After rook e7 and king f2, it looks like white got two pieces for the rook, but after the right move f6, rook d2, it's possible to capture the pawn. Without f6, the rook d2 immediately brings nothing, since white can simply play knight e2 and the pawn on b2 is defended by the bishop. So in this case, f6, another intermediate move, and now rook d2, capturing the pawn on b2, and with two pawns and the rook for two light pieces, it's sufficient to play for the win in this position. Why? Because of the connected passed pawns. And here again, when we take the method of evaluating endgame positions, we see that activity of pieces, in this case the rook, is better for black, because white pieces, the knight is chained, and the bishop on c3 has no good squares. Then activity situation of kings. Black king has no problems, he can move freely. The white king should every time think about other pieces and defend them, and go trying to stay away from checks. And pawn structure, it's definitely here where black's advantage is so visible. With pass pawns on e5 and c6, it's a relatively easy task to convert this position. Well, both sides move with their plans. White decides to improve his knight, but it doesn't work. And you see, these black pawns, they control so many squares in the center, and controlling squares in the center, well, it means that you control the game, and in this case, it's the only hope is a pawn on a7, but here again, white pieces lack coordination, and because of this, activity of black rook is really great. This intermediate check is another good sign of quality of realizing this advantage shown by black, because now pawns are better placed for the promotion. And here we go. The knight have to go, and we simply push our other pawns and wait for the right moment to gain the knight back and to win the game. So, in this interesting game, we were able to see how a relatively simple position journey into a wild tactical battle, and in this case, making the right decision is really not so easy, meaning that if you use the first moves method of calculation, then probably you will find out that knight f2 is one of the candidate moves, and if you calculate it further, you'll discover that this idea of two pieces for the rook isn't working. Today we continue discussing the method of forced moves, and I am showing an example how it helped me in one of the games that I played recently in finding the right combination. So, I'm really fond of playing on the internet, and sometimes you just play with blitz games where you don't have much time, and spotting the right decisions is really helpful. When you see the first move and your brain calculates it without really your attention, then you gain valuable time. So here I was white, and I'm piece down, as I also have pawn, I'm also pawn down, and it's really serious material disadvantage, but I am attacking. And in this case, if you look, the black king is really weak on g8, and there is also a pawn on g7 that asks to be captured. But what happens next? So, it's your turn to move, and you can pause the video now and try to calculate the consequences of rook g7, finding the right solution. Good luck. I really hope that you didn't only find the right move of following rook g7, but also you have discovered the best defense for black and the way how white is able to win the game in spite of this. So, really, white doesn't have any alternatives to rook g7, since other forced moves do not do anything. So, we are speaking about forced moves and the way how we look, beginning with capture with check, then all moves with checks. After that, checking all moves where we are capturing anything, and then looking at possible threats and knight moves. So, here, when we speak about forced moves, then queen h7 means nothing. Knight captures on f5, move with capture here. Also, it's not sufficient, and there are actually no other captures in this position, and we can of course look at other moves like knight b3, but it's really too slow, and as I mentioned before, white doesn't have material to do some things like that. So, rook g7 seems promising. Normally, on the internet, such moves are played automatically. After king g7, probably the first forced move that comes into mind is rook g1, but in this case, black has easy and strong reply with king h8. The king is really well protected by the pawn on h7, and there are no checks that would make any sense here. So instead of this, let's look at other first moves. So queen h6 or queen h7 doesn't make any sense. Then there is also knight captures on e5, but here black simply replies with queen takes f5. Are there any other moves with check? Yes, definitely. And it's knight e6. Another forced move. And here comes the question, what happens next? Well, if black moves his king, then we simply take the queen. Meaning that black probably has to take on e6, but what happens now? I really hope that you discovered quickly rook d7, where black can't really defend in this way against maze. So king g8 comes. Also queen takes h7. Rook f7 is not sufficient due to rook takes f7, and we see here another mate. So I hope that really when you started calculating rook g7, you discovered that black can play king f6. And what happens here? Definitely it's queen h6 followed by f4. So it's really important to see that after queen h6, black has only one possible move. It's king e5, and here once again searching for forced moves and looking at them first. So here there are different checks like queen e6, queen f6, queen g7. Well, the only move that makes any sense apart from the move in the game is queen g7, but here comes rook f6, and unfortunately it's not sufficient to mate black, since after queen g3 black has another move here, f4. So it's not sufficient to win, but there is a mate in one, and it's f4. So forced move, mate is also a forced move, because it's a check where our opponent isn't able to defend. So this was the game that I played on the internet, and here, as you see, looking at forced moves when conducting an attack on the enemy king is really a powerful tool to find right moves really quickly. Hi, we start with another example on tactics and this tactical course. So it's really important to have a method how you calculate moves, but no method can help you if you don't see the variations. Why do you calculate them? Here is an example taken from a game played in 2001 between Limp Rodriguez and Rodriguez in Mercosur Cup. Black eventually won this game, but here is white to move, and he missed an opportunity to win the game in style. Instead, he decided that the rook is under attack and played rook 7 e6. After that, it was a long game, and black eventually won, but here, it's of course you can start with forced moves, and you see rook g7 brings nothing, and rook c7 just wins a pawn, but probably loses a rook somewhere, and well, there are really not so many forced moves here, but there are different elements of combinations that make them possible, and here it's one that makes you feel, yes, there is something. The seventh line right now is under control, and imagine that you put a queen on h7. Well, it's mate. It's always advisable to check some fantastic ideas, like what happens if I put my pieces here or there, and sometimes it's really, you see a goal and you know where you have to move. So here you see that, well, it would be possible to put the queen there, but you need your queen like to get into this diagonal b1, h7, and probably it's really not working so good, because there is a queen on a5. Can we put it away? Well, there are some possibilities like knight h4, but nothing happens, because bishop h4, for example, and g4. Well, g4, you see that probably there is a move like queen g4. Then let's try queen d3, and black can play something like rook f7 or even bishop g7. So it seems that nothing works, and here probably we would quickly play the same move, moving the rook away from e7, but there is a move that wins. And in this case it is. Here you can stop the video and try to find the right move. Maybe you already see it. And the right move is bishop h3. It's really deflecting the queen and taking use of the fact that this diagonal is weak, and compared to the earlier mentioned positions, rook g7 isn't helping a lot, since queen g6 attacks the bishop and there is no defense. And also bishop e7 isn't working well because of not rook e7, which actually loses to queen f5, but because after bishop e7 you have this check on g6, and only now you play rook e7. When queen f5 loses to queen g7 and to rook h7, both wins. So really, bishop h3 is hard to find, and it's really all about detecting this small puzzle points and getting all together. And it's really seldom that it works so well, but if you know the goal, you can achieve it. So bishop h3, and after that queen b1 or queen c2, everything works fine, and you really could win such a nice position, such a nice game. So thanks for watching it, and we will continue with next examples. Looking automatically at first moves helps a lot. For example, in the next situation, I was playing with black pieces. My opponent he has just played rook b2, and of course, after I have captured on e4, he resigned, since taking back makes it after knight d3 hopeless for him to play. So here simple fork, but looking at forced moves helps, and if you make it automatically, then it's like a habit that you don't really waste time doing. So here is another example of forced moves. I have played this game in the year 2010, and my opponent was like 2200. So black is on turn, black to move, and here probably you have discovered the right idea and combination. Knight captures on f2, and it's the queen that attacks the rook on b1, which makes this move possible. But at the end, it's really about forced moves that made me find this move much earlier, because I was preparing this trap, this tactical blow earlier. So after knight captures f2, just few moves later, my opponent resigned. So how did it happen? We can see it here. I have opened the F file, and later I was playing along this diagonal, eyeing these several squares on c2 and d3 for my knight. So after my opponent has played knight b3, it's obvious. I play knight d3 and he has no other choice than come into this variation. So, first moves, yes, it's definitely not a big deal to find out knight f2 in this position, but it's really about discovering such ideas on earlier stages of the game and to set your goal and target. Why do you play it and how do you play it? Today we speak about method of forced moves, and in this example I want to show a type of situation where this method isn't working so well. So, this game has been played in the year 2004 in Spain between two strong players, international masters, and it was really something that drew my attention when I saw this game for the first time. Well, if we check once again with our method of piece activity and situation of the kings and pawn structures, and we see that this type of evaluation isn't working in middle games. There are much more factors that have to be counted on, and it's a bit complicated. When we speak about forced moves, then it's clear. It's starting with capture, check, check, capture, all threats, all knight moves, etc. And then all other moves. So here it's really complicated situation where black has to move. He plays king c7, and okay, we can say that the situation of kings is better for white, but there are so many factors that we have to take in account that only this factor isn't enough to win. And now speaking about forced moves, capture with check is like rook c6, can be replied with knight capture c6 brings nothing. So another capture is bishop f7, makes no sense. Then rook d6, and after rook d6, king d6, there is a move for knight f5, also with check. The king retreats, then we can capture the rook on e7. Well, something that looks quite interesting, and it's actually what has happened in the game. The first sequence, and then our d1, and white captured the rook. Looks pretty well for white, as they have won another pawn, but at the end it's really black who wins this game. I suggest that you pause the video and look for the decisive move for black. I hope that you were able to discover the right move, and it's knight d3. Moves like that is very easy to overlook. Nobody expected that black will be able to create some mating threats, but it really is. As you see, there is no real defense against all these threats, and this position is one for black. Instead, it can be played rook d3, but here queen f2, and black sets several threats in action, like queen g2, queen f1, or queen e1 with mate. And if, of course, if it's black turn to move, then we have this famous mating scheme with queen g1 and knight f2. So it's really interesting how quickly black was able to get winning attack. So in the game, white played h3, but it's also rook g2, and white resigned. There are too many threats, and the white king is in a bad position. But how did it happen? Well, let's start from here. A simple move like queen f4 would cover this weak square on f2, and also support some additional modules like rook d6. Later on, here rook d1 was unnecessary move. Instead, queen d2, and once again It's all about defending these important squares. And now there is like queen d6, getting more from this position. There is also queen e8, king e8, and here probably the game has to be drawn with the perpetual check and position repetition. But really nice it. An automatic remove like check, and after knight d3 it's already too late for white to save the game. So with this example I want you to remember that the method of forced moves is great to calculate and to train your calculation ability. But in games it's really important to look also for other things and take into account that your opponent also calculates the variations.